Hello, welcome back to Social Media Help Desk. I'm your host, Princess Ruff, and I am joined by Rick Ormsby here in the Atlanta office and Meredith Ashburn. So today we're going to talk about a lot of new updates as well as press releases, but to start, a lot of the social media platforms are kind of like competing for updates right now. It's like an update surge. Right now, Twitter is considering adding a Snapchat-esque feature called Fleets to Twitter. It's really going to resemble Facebook in a lot of ways when it comes to their Facebook stories and adding that 24-hour effect to the Twitter platform. A lot of people are taking it in multiple ways, but it's an interesting new thing that Twitter's trying out, and I think it's important for platforms to experiment with things. If it flops, if it doesn't flop, you never know unless you try. The Twitter Group product manager Mo Aladam says fleets are now a new way to start conversations from your fleeting thoughts. So what do you guys think about that?
I mean, I don't personally use Twitter as much as other social media platforms, so I probably am not going to partake, but I'm like, that's exciting.
Yeah.
You know, adding a new feature is always fun. It's something that they've never done before. I don't think they've done anything like that, so why not?
Yeah.
Before we even talk about the actual service itself, just calling it Fleet and working with the avian theme and fleeting thoughts, like, it's very cute. It's a good way to market something, particularly when you've come in kind of on the back end. If you look at Snapchat and Instagram stories, Facebook stories, really it's been almost a decade since Snapchat first came about, and now it's surprising that Twitter's only just now coming out with this. But I think it's part of the reason why it's there is that having these limited time posts is popular. It's something that people are using, and
Clearly it's catching on.
Right.
It is.
Already with Twitter, you've managed these smaller level posts by having a character count to begin with.
That's true.
That small post, the small turnaround. Like, it seems like it's a good fit for the platform. It's still time to be tested to see how long it will last, and if it's something that users will attach themselves onto. But there's definitely a lot of potential there.
Yeah.
Be able to put your thought out there. And know that it's not going to last forever. Now, does it have any other limitations in terms of what people can respond to? I believe that you can or cannot retweet a fleet.
You cannot like or retweet a fleet. That's a mouthful. Say that 5 times. But yes, you cannot like or retweet. It will be at the top of the feed, so it'll be easily accessible, much like you see on Instagram. And so people will be able to see it instantly. You'll be able to tap into it and watch it. I think it'll be interesting. I think I've already seen mixed reactions, but I think it'll be fun. Right now, it's just being tested in Brazil, which is really interesting. And so it's not expected to spread for a while. I guess Twitter's going to just figure out and see how Brazil takes it. And if it goes well, they're going to spread it out. But I'm excited for it. I think it'll be interesting. I don't think myself that I'm going to partake in it, but I will be watching some of the fleet around Twitter.
Yes, for sure.
All right, so moving out of that, taking flight into Instagram. Instagram is exploring video responses with IGTV, which I think is really interesting because for a while now it seemed like IGTV kind of took a back seat to their other features and capabilities, and now they're kind of saying, hey, don't forget about it, because Instagram stories in general have been really popular, but they're really trying to do something to amplify the long-form video for those influencers and those businesses and brands. So they're doing something where you can now add video responses to IGTV. If this sounds familiar, it should, because it's very, very similar to what the very popular platform TikTok does for their users. And so I think it's going to be another interesting, different update for another social media platform. What do you all think?
So in my head, I envision businesses doing this to each other.
Like competing videos. I automatically think of like Wendy's when they got their Twitter and they started replying to other businesses, and they were so funny. I see like businesses who can be playful like that, like as long as it's on brand, like replying to each other in that way to be playful and funny. And so I hope that happens, because I will watch those for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And I definitely like the option it's created for just more interaction, more communication between different groups. And it seems, again, that some of these features we're seeing pop up, some of these new updates, they're already existing in one place, and then it seems like the major names, Facebook, Instagram, they grab on and find a way to incorporate it into their own services. And really, that's fantastic, because that allows that user base to stay with them. You can enjoy alternatives like TikTok, but now you're having more options to stay with what you already, especially if you've already developed a base.
Exactly.
Right.
Including more services, more features like this, it's a better way to maintain that retention with the influencers that have really made Instagram what it is over the last 5 years.
That's true. And also with TikTok, a lot of my friends, they're either like anti-TikTok or they love it.
Exactly.
But Instagram is like, I think everybody really likes Instagram, so it's like a safe bet for them to kind of take that, because I am pro Instagram.
Yeah.
So I'm more likely to use that feature and kind of keep up with that feature more than I am to download TikTok to be able to do the same thing.
I think it's an innovative way to kind of just increase engagement. I think you brought up the business aspect of it. I think businesses are going to see this as a unique way to just grow that engagement between their business and their audience, just with like contact inquiries or tutorial questions, or just really interesting way to just loop you into your audience, especially with video being that avenue of content that really connects people deeper than text or images. So I'm really excited about it.
And that brings up a really good point too, because you have that option to reply with video. You can even, that allows your customer base to ask questions in a different way. You can actually film what's going on, what the problem that they're encountering, or even if it's not directly with a business, if it's a support group or another organization that's a fan of something, it just gives the audience a lot more freedom to communicate in a way that they haven't before.
Yeah. I like all these innovative updates that they're trying out. 2020 is like the year for new stuff, so I'm really excited about it. So moving into Facebook, the OG of social media. So Facebook is updating their Messenger for iOS. This is exciting news for Apple users such as myself. So basically what they're doing with the Messenger, they have recoded it so that it takes up less space and loads a lot faster for people, and so now it's a lot easier to house on your phone, to utilize on a daily basis. I think this is going to be great for business owners who communicate a lot with customers regularly, who answer messages and inquiries with their audience base. I think this is just going to make it a lot easier for their day-to-day communications and operations.
Yeah, I am personally very excited for this because I have not upgraded the storage on my phone, and so I am constantly having to figure out what needs to stay on my phone and getting rid of everything else.
What can I live without?
Yes, exactly, like every month. So I'm excited for this to give me more room for like pictures and anything else that I need.
Exactly.
You know, that's actually a really good point. The concept that there's a lot of people that face having to buy a new phone because they can't keep up with upgrades and change. So to have an upgrade that comes out with an existing service that people are already fond of using, that actually makes it smaller and faster is absolutely ideal. And you don't always see that. A lot of times when you hear an update, you're expecting it to be taking up more space.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the speed is entirely up to how new is your phone. So anything like that improves the user experience. It doesn't always have to be a feature. Sometimes it can be just an update, making what you already have operate at a higher level of performance.
Yes, I appreciate it.
Actually, the CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, actually said that the Messenger will be 1/4 the size and load twice as fast. So that's really exciting. But on the flip side of that, with more speed and less space, the app has some features that are temporarily suspended, and they're not sure if those features are going to make the cut for the new update. So they're just kind of prioritizing what's going to stay, what's going to go, what's going to be more beneficial for your phone space and your usability. So that is really exciting for Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And to move right into some more Facebook updates and news, Rick is going to tell us about some great ways to utilize Facebook Stories.
Yes, it's very, if you're not familiar with Facebook Stories, they're very similar to what Princess was talking about, Twitter Fleet, with Snapchat, where they're visually based newsfeed in your existing Facebook account that's only around for a limited time. It allows you to communicate, and it's only going to be up there for about 24 hours before it's back down. Facebook launched this back in 2017. It was really their answer to Instagram stories and to Snapchat. Since then, there's been mixed reviews. People are using it, some people aren't, but it definitely has a following. And unlike your regular news feed, again, these are only up for 24 hours. So some businesses have found this as a more authentic way to start communicating with their user base, because it's not something that's up there forever. It's something that, for the most part, has been addressed just by people, by friends and family members. So there are some ways that you can make your Facebook story stand out from a marketing perspective. They're really growing in popularity. You're starting to see more businesses use this feature than did when it first came on the scene a few years ago. Now about 72% of businesses are posting Facebook story at least once a week. So that's there. And at this point, if you're not using Facebook stories, you should consider it. And here's a few things you can keep in mind. Number one of the easiest ways to start is interactive content. People want to have something that they can engage with. Behind the scenes footage is an easy answer to that. Just quick, raw videos. This is the same sort of advice that we'd give for utilizing the similar story feature on Instagram. If you have an event coming up, if you have a new product launch, if you're even preparing to film a new commercial, a teaser, anything like that at all, using Facebook stories is a great way for that raw. It doesn't have to be as polished as your finished product is on something like YouTube or LinkedIn, but it gives your user base a look behind the scenes. And it's fleeting. It's that moment, and you feel like you're a part of something that's there just now, and then it goes away. Which is another reason why you don't want to necessarily put in a lot of production effort into it, because it's not going to last. Right. So feel free to get that raw footage, that behind the scenes moment. Another one is a how-to. Just a how-to tip or trick, something where again it's letting the user see that this is something that's limited time. Come in, look how to use this, and then go on about your day, keeping it timely, keeping it related to a recent product launch, or answering frequently asked questions. Visual demonstrations for your products, using them in different ways. In that way, as opposed to again coming out with one fully polished video that only shows it one way, you have the opportunity to demonstrate that product use in another environment, or to gather with a focus group or different users and have them contribute videos as well to put forward. And one of the best uses for interactive content with the Facebook stories is asking for your customer's opinion. You've got the opportunity to respond live, or you can follow up in a weekly engagement where you ask the question on one day and then a week later you answer it. Frequently asked questions are another one of those great ways to really get feedback immediately from your audience and stay on top of what are they asking, what information do they want from you. And then answering them in your live stories is a great way to build into a weekly segment, something that people look back to your stories for.
Yeah. I think the experience that I've had with Facebook stories, I've always really enjoyed it. I thought it was really cute for Facebook to start incorporating it a couple years ago. I've definitely seen businesses who take advantage of it and who are using it in the right ways. And I've seen them get positive results from it, whether they're teasing a new product or they're showing the behind the scenes of a promo video, or they're answering some questions, doing a live Q&A, or just posting little polls. Polls are always a great idea too for interactive content. So I've really personally seen some really great results come from businesses using Facebook stories.
Yeah, I agree. I think when we think about all of the social media platforms, we kind of see Instagram as the authentic, the engaging platform. And I'm really proud of Facebook for stepping up and inviting that same engagement into their platform and giving users another way to connect with them. And like you said, the how-tos, the tutorials, the different ways that you can utilize these stories. I think it's going to be great for kind of bridging that gap and inviting users more into the conversation than they have been on Facebook so far.
Yeah.
And another thing to consider too is that this is visual, much more so than Facebook's regular newsfeed. So when you're wanting to engage with users, whether you're using a video or an image, you want it to be eye-catching. You want to start with something bold, something that immediately grabs the customer's attention, and keep it easily digestible. And you can always follow up with additional images to support it, but you want to hit the ground running with something that's really captivating.
Right.
And it really ties into that kind of fleeting moment. This is limited. You want to see it quickly. You want it to be digested quickly, and get a reaction out of those customers.
Absolutely.
And the last, if you're going to use Facebook stories for marketing purposes or for a business or any organization really, you always want to follow up with some sort of call to action. It's like any other marketing resource. Once you have the audience's attention, there should be a result attached onto that. What are you trying to get them to do? What's the behavior? And one of the easiest ways to make sure that happens is to give them a clear set of instructions. Tell them where to go next. If you're teasing a release for something, when's it coming out? Where can they go to learn more? When will it be available? Is there a newsletter they can join to receive updates more regularly? If it's a product that's already available, where can they go and get it? If it's a service, how do they contact you? So treat it like any other resource and make sure that once you have that audience attention, you follow through and give them those next steps.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point because Facebook stories are so short-lived, they're so fleeting. Once people have that high of taking in your content, it's like, okay, what now? And so leading them to the next step, the next breadcrumb that's more so evergreen, or that's, you know, more of a long living piece of content, I think is a really smart way to leverage Facebook stories in a way where it's like, this is great, this is fun for now, but what's next, and how can we keep you in our audience circle? So I think businesses who take it to that level really see the results from Facebook stories in a more like a long-term way.
Yeah, I think it's really easy. I think we've all probably experienced this as content producers. Like, it's really easy for us to assume that the audience knows what to do next, because we think we've laid it all out. You know, go to our website now to check out our products. But unless you like include that link, unless you know, tell them kind of straight up, like, hey, maybe you should do this now that you know this information. Like, that's so much more helpful, and you're more likely to get those actions by consumers that way.
Well, and that's the last thing to consider is have a plan.
Yeah.
It's true for so many things. If you're going to utilize this feature or any feature on social media, come into it with a plan. What are you trying to accomplish? What's the behavior you want? And do you have all of the pieces in place to make it as easy as possible for your audience to follow through?
Absolutely. Well, if you have a more larger plan or a larger piece of content or information you want to get out that can't quite live into a story and you want to do a press release, Meredith's going to tell us how to build out the best press release for your business.
Yeah, so it's so great that that's how you transition into this. That is exactly how I'm opening this. So with any big, especially time-sensitive company news, whether that's an upcoming event, a new hire, a new partnership, an award, or an achievement, it's very difficult to fit all of that in a social media post or even an ad, especially if you're trying to reach a large number of people in a short amount of time. And so press releases are a great way to reach this large audience quickly. We like press releases because they allow you to share that full story without, we mentioned the character count of social media posts. So you're allowed to really expand on your company's news like you would need to if it really is big news. It allows you to share this news with relevant media outlets who can provide you a large amount of coverage that you're requiring. And then it also lets you reach people outside of your normal digital audience. You know, reaching other people's audiences. It's really like exponential at that point. So all of that is great. However, it's really easy for press releases to get tossed into this like virtual trash can, especially during like these high intensity, busy media seasons like the one that we're in right now, you know, with the concern about the coronavirus and everything that's going on with that. And then the fact that it's an election year, you know, a lot of the media outlets are just really swamped with so much information that they're having to sort through. And so there's a lot of competition to getting your press release to the top of the list. And so what we want to talk about today is what steps can you take and how can you format your press release to give it a better chance of making it to the top of that list. But before we do that, Princess, I know you have some news industry experience, and so can you give us a little bit of insight into this process of journalists having to sort through all of that information?
Yeah, so when I used to sort through press releases, coming in, hectic morning, I would prioritize, like, the press releases that would catch my eye were the ones who knew how to word their release in a way where it was beneficial for me. So don't make your press release in a way where it's more so beneficial for your business. You have to make it in a way where it's like, what's in it for the media outlet? How does this work, could possibly work into the show? How can a reporter possibly prioritize this into their day? Or even if you know there's a lot of big news happening right now, how can you work your business into the current events? In an objective way, I guess. But finding a way to make it worth the reporter's while, the anchor's while. And I think if you can do that, you can kind of beat out the other press releases that aren't really taking that angle. And it's more sort of just, here's the information, can you cover us? So those are the ones I would say that would catch my eye the most often. And they made it easy for me. They would already have a quote in the press release. They would already have their contact information. They would leave the best hours to contact, or like, contact me as soon as possible. They would just make covering the story easy and very streamlined. It made the work very easy for me. So those are the ones that I would normally like pick out and take for the day.
Right.
It comes back to so many things. If you want your marketing plan to be effective, make it as easy as possible for the person that you want to do something.
Exactly.
Make it easier for them to do that thing.
Yeah, true that. So here are a few ways, you've touched on a lot of them, which I love, that you can increase your chances of having your story picked up. So first and foremost, a compelling headline and subheadline. So your headline should be very straightforward, but you can fluff up the language a little bit to make it more compelling. So I'm going to give an example now. So at KWSM, we just had an awesome mentorship program that we all participated in, and it was so much fun. So if I were creating a press release for that mentorship program, rather than having my headline say, KWSM implements a new mentorship program for its employees, I would say something more like, KWSM, a digital marketing agency, launches an innovative and exclusive mentorship program. So just little ways like that. It's very subtle, but when like journalists are just reading these titles, language does make a difference, even if it's not obvious, like you're trying to meet a word count. Like fluffing it up a little bit is always helpful.
That is so true. Yeah.
And then your subhead right underneath your headline should then explain a few more details about your news in one sentence to give your contacts a preview into what your release is going to be about. So you just want to lead them in a little bit more than what your headline is already doing. So then after both of those things, you want an informative, to the point first paragraph. So your first paragraph really is going to be like the meat of what your press release is about. It should include the who, the what, the when, where, why, all of that into one paragraph. It's very dense, but you know, like you said, journalists are kind of crunched for time, especially in these busy media seasons, and so you really want to grab their attention, lay it all out right at the top where it's easy for them to find what you're going to be talking about. And then number 3, powerful quotes, like you mentioned. So you said it was really nice when they already had those quotes laid out for you, and that's exactly what you want your press release to do, is 2 or 3 powerful, compelling quotes that are exactly word for word how you want your journalists that will pick up these stories, exactly how you want them to include in their pieces. So what do you guys think makes a powerful, compelling quote?
All of that. I think a powerful, compelling quote, it captures emotion. I think a really good quote shows the impact that a business, brand, or event had on that person, that division head or owner. I think it really shows the change that a business brings about. It really makes you feel something. Not to say, oh, I want to use this quote in my story, because that's every reporter's goal, is to tell a story with emotion, to make the viewer feel something. And so if you want to have a quote that you want quoted in an article or a story, then make sure you have some emotion and some feeling in there.
Right.
I think it's also important to have a variety of quotes in your piece, because you could potentially have multiple outlets trying to report on it at the same time, and nobody wants to say the exact same thing as their competition. So the more quotes you provide, and really the more quotes that then support different aspects of the message that you're trying to deliver with the supporting information, you're now providing more outlets an opportunity to be unique but still deliver your message.
Yeah, I like that, having that variety, and then also having a number of different sources from those quotes. So you don't want 2 or 3 quotes from the same person.
Exactly.
Switch it up in what you're saying and who's saying it. So after you have those 2 or 3 quotes, those will be like scattered throughout your press release. But after your first quote, you want to have more details about your news, about your story. So if they've made it this far, you have their attention. And so now you want to really give them all the details that they're going to need to share with the people that you want to reach. So anything else that's important for them to know, that's the point where you then sprinkle those additional details in. And then lastly, details about your company. So this one is really important because it adds that level of credibility. So it's not just enough to give all these details about your event. The journalist is going to want to know, okay, well, who are you? Who's saying this, and why should I quote you? Why should I, pick up your story? So a lot of companies, they utilize what we call like a boilerplate, which is like a standard copy that they can, pretty much copy and paste into every press release that they use. And so this gives your brand really a lot of consistency in the messages that it's sending out. It saves you time when you're making your press releases, and also it just makes sure that you're not leaving any details out about your company that you're going to want to include it. Make sure that it's all right there. You've used it before, you know it works. And so after that little boilerplate, that's when you have your contact information, like Princess was talking about again. Just how are they going to reach you? Even hours, I like that. Hours, like best times to reach you. It helps lay it all out to the journalist who might contact you with more like questions or, anything else that they might need.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what Rick said. Make it easy, make it simple, make it to the point. I think that goes along with just your overall marketing strategy. If you ever need help trying to adjust to any of these new social media platform updates and the twists and turns of the digital marketing industry, or if you have an event or something coming up or a new announcement for your company that you need pushed out, we do press releases and help with media outreach here at KWSM. So if you ever need help with any of those things, feel free to contact our team. We are always here to help you. Thank you for joining us for another edition of Social Media Help Desk. See you next week.